Hi everybody, and welcome to the channel. My name is Infantry Pulse, and today I'll be taking you through a tour of my Dark Season defense team in Aether Raids and Fire Emblem Heroes. We'll be kind of having a discussion about what makes Infantry Pulse teams so great, and how you can improve your defense strategy using Infantry Pulse. We'll go ahead and start right off with one of my favorite characters in my Aether Raids defense team, and that is Mythic Sothis. And the reason why I like my Mythic Sothis so much is that instead of running her exclusive special Sirius, which boosts her damage and gives her a little bit of healing, I actually choose to run Miracle on her instead. So it kind of makes her an infantry version of Hell, which was just released in 2020. She has that miracle effect on her weapon that makes her really, really hard to kill. The thing with Hell, though, is that Hell is super weak to magic damage. Hell's miracle effect does not work against magic users. So with Hell coming out recently, people are going to prepare counters for her. I know when I saw Hell released, I immediately went and I bought Resplendent Sophia so I could counter her. Sophia is a red tome with high defense, has really good matchups against those kind of units, so I can actually enemy phase into more and more of those Hells. People are not going to be as prepared for something like Miracle Sothis, who has a similar effect, but is an infantry unit, is a dragon unit, is a red unit, and can actually withstand magic attacks. She actually gets 3 infantry pulses from her allies, and then Shield Pulse, which is her B skill, gets those extra 2 pulses so she has Miracle right away ready. The thing about running Shield Pulse is that you don't get the 5 damage reduction that it has in its kit. You just get the extra cooldown from the beginning of the turn. I also boost her speed quite considerably using speed defense bond and then speed res form. And speed res form is actually not a premium option. You can actually get it from Wrath at 4 stars out of the 3 and 4 star pool. So it's actually a quite convenient option for you to use for a speedy frontline tank like Sothis. So between those 2 options, she actually gets quite high in speed, so that'll end up making her, 52 speed, so pretty hard to double unless you have something that can naturally double her, like a Dire Thunder from Reinhardt, or someone with an automatic follow-up. So those 2 things are things that she is generally weak to, but unless that unit, like a Reinhardt, can actually kill her with both hits, so deal 42 damage with both hits, she won't go down because of Miracle. So she can almost always survive a round of combat against most units because of that. I do keep her natural weapon, which removes her weakness to dragon effective weapons, which is really, really great, as well as gives her that DC advantage. And then she does run Swap to make sure that she stays close to allies, to make sure that speed defense bond is active as much as possible, and also to make sure that she stays near the front line in the 2nd and 3rd rounds of the game. That's pretty much all on Sothis. I do run her plus res as opposed to plus speed because it's what I had. She's only plus 2 right now, but also because her res is pretty low. The reason why I run speed defense bond as opposed to speed res bond is because she actually does have the highest defense value on this team, so she does get hit by chill res if anyone's running chill res on chill defense on offense. She gets hit by chill defense, so you want to make sure that she can still boost up her defense to handle those threats like a legendary leaf that can really, really damage her severely if her defense is too low. So that's my Sothis. I really appreciate her as a frontliner. She really does put in work. Because she has Miracle, she also works as a Wings of Mercy anchor, which is useful for later. We'll talk about that in a minute. Next up, we have Soth, and Soth is a great merge project for you. I do have my Soth all the way up at plus 10. He's a 3 and 4 star unit, so it's really easy to get him there. I have him with Sturdy Impact to prevent follow-ups. Also, that plus 10 defense has really come in handy quite a bit to make sure that he doesn't die after 1 round of combat. And again, because he doesn't die and he usually takes some damage in retaliation, that means that he becomes a Wings of Mercy anchor for Sonya later. So that gives him some extra damage as well, preventing the follow-ups. He runs attack defense lull, because that gives him a way to cut through defense buffs and deal a little bit more damage. And I do run attack defense lull instead of speed defense lull to give him a little bit more survivability, just to make sure that those crazy attack buffs that some units might have don't kill him after 1 round of combat, and he can actually engage in multiple combats. Because his base attack is so high, and I do run him at plus attack, that actually means that he can go into multiple rounds of combats even when his special is not charged and deal a significant chunk of damage, especially to light mythics like Air and Peony, who have very, very low defense. So having, when I have mostly res threats, I have my 3 mages here. Soth does put in work taking out the low defense mythics that we have. So he runs Times Pulse and Quicken Pulse because his high HP, because of the +10, ensures that he only gets 1 Infantry Pulse coming from Azura. He does need the extra 2 charges to get Dragonic Aura off. And I do run Dragonic Aura as opposed to Luna. And the reason why I do that is because between attack and defense lull and his super, super high base attack in general, that means that it actually does increase his damage output way more than Luna would. So his opponent's defense is going to be a lot lower because of lull attack defense. His attack is super high because of its natural base attack, plus 30 impact, plus the mythic blessing from Bremond, who actually gives him the extra 3 attack there. So Dragonic Aura is the superior choice as opposed to Luna almost every single time when it comes to Soth. So that's my Soth. He does run Cloud Myogi, and the Myogi daggers are so important. Hardy Bearing is one of the most important things you can have on your defense team. If you don't run Hardy Bearing, then you will get blown up by Vantage units. I personally run Young Marth, who has Vantage built into his weapon. If you don't run something that can counter these Vantage units, and you usually need to run 2 of them, so I run a Cloud Myogi and then Hardy Bearing in Lysithia Seal, that ensures that you can counter Vantage strategies. If you only run 1 of these units, so if I say only ran the Myogi and didn't run Hardy Bearing on Lysithia, that means that someone could come in, snipe out Soth, and then ensure that their Vantage strategy would still work. So on every team, you probably want to have 2 Hardy Bearing users, just to ensure that you're not getting Vantage swept, because that feels really, really bad to just stand there and watch your units get pecked off one by one. So always, I recommend 2 Hardy Bearing users on your team. Either one of the Myogi daggers, or you can use the Hoshiden Summer Micaiah, who has Hardy Bearing built into her weapon as well, and he's also a dancer, which is a really great asset to have. So that is Soth. Soth is great. I love Soth. He puts in work. I am actually going to replace him pretty soon, though, with an additional dancer because of Milla's effect on the metagame. So because Milla exists, that actually blocks my Azura from dancing a lot of the time. So I'm actually going to need another dancer to make sure that Milla's pain isn't felt so terribly against my team. Moving on, though, we'll go ahead and take a look at Lysithia. So Lysithia is chilling at +3. I actually have not really ever tried to pull for Lysithia. On her debut banner, I actually got 2 plus attack Lysithias out of my free summon tickets, and I was like, I guess I'm a Lysithia player now. So that was pretty cool. Really, really lucky on that. And then I've gotten 2 additional ones just as pity breakers on seasonal banners and on focus banners and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really, really lucky in that aspect because Lysithia is an incredible unit. So her Tome gives her a ton of extra attack. It gives her special cooldown -1. So she only needs 2 hits of Infantry Pulse, 1 from Sonya and 1 from Azura. And then she is actually good to go with her Dragonic Aura. And her attack is huge. It's base 61. It actually gets up to base 64 with Bremond's Mythic bonus. That, plus the 10 extra attack she gets from her weapon, plus Death Blow 4, means that her Dragonic Aura is incredible. And because it's only 2 cooldown, that means that Special Spiral can activate it every round. So Lysithia is always my goal unit to be targeted by a dance. And right now that's not super great because of Milla's effect on the game. She often gets isolated, which is not super fun, but it is really great to see Lysithia just chunk through most everyone on a team. It's really hard to get around Lysithia's just incredible damage output. She has really low defenses though, so she's usually vulnerable to snipes. She mostly survives Air's attacks, Air's Lithiaberg attacks, but if the Air has Iceberg charge, then she goes down for sure, which feels bad. A lot of times Lysithia will go around and not be able to do anything because she didn't get danced, and then she got sniped out by an Air. But once she does get going and once she does get the ball rolling, she really puts in damage. She has Hardy Bearing, and not only to counter Vantage users, but the Hardy Bearing on her and her red color and her super high attack damage make her an excellent counter to Brave Ike. And Brave Ike is one of the most common offense strategies. He is everywhere. He is absolutely ubiquitous. So you want to have something that can deal with Brave Ike. I actually have 3 units here that deal with Brave Ike super well because I see him so often. Bremond's effect that makes it so that you 1v1 him, his C skill, makes it so that Brave Lucina doesn't get her bonuses off, and then Brave Ike can't charge his Aether fast enough. So Bremond's a great counter against Brave Ike, and then the Hardy Bearing Dagger on Soth and the Hardy Bearing Seal on Lysithia make them really, really great counters. Especially Lysithia, because of her red color, gives her weapon triangle advantage against a Brave Ike. And so that's something you want to consider. So if you're seeing a lot of Brave Ikes in your world, you got to consider what you're going to do to counter those. And I personally always see Brave Ikes. Every single replay, I would say that every single week at least, I see 2 or 3 Brave Ikes on my replays out of like 8 or 10 replays. So definitely want to think about Brave Ike. Hardy Bearing Daggers also counter your Kranias, which I think is another super common unit. So Krania is basically just like a reverse Vantage where your units need to be damaged. So Hardy Bearing users counter Krania really hard as well. So that's a good thing to be considering if you're having trouble with those 2 units especially. Moving on, we've got my Azura, who is my dancer and also the top of my Infantry Pulse chain. So when we have an Infantry Pulse chain, what you're looking at is to get your HP stacked in a way, the unit's HP, and this is a plus HP Azura, so she is the top of the chain. You gotta get your HP stacked in such a way that the bottom of the chain, the lowest HP unit, has the most powerful special. So my lowest HP unit is Bremond, and he does have easily the most powerful special, and hits just like a tank when he comes in with that Dragon Fang. So you want your kind of weakest unit, this case being my dancer, the one that doesn't need to engage, being the top of that chain usually, and then going down from there. If you don't, then you have to run things like Quicken Pulse and Times Pulse, which is what I have in my Soth. Soth is a really great unit, he's a really awesome combat unit, does a ton of damage, but because his HP is so high, he has to supplement his special cooldowns with things like Times Pulse and Quicken Pulse to make sure that he can actually get a good special off. So she runs Triple Chills, which I think is a great strategy in this map specifically, because although I do have like a well-leveled up Dark Shrine and a pretty okay Bright Shrine over here, and those do put in work to debuff my enemies, they will get destroyed very easily. It's very easy to go over to this left side of the map over here and clear out these structures on this kind of a map. The advantage that you have is that your units themselves are really hard to hit, and it's almost impossible to snipe your healing tower. So you almost always have units with very high HP, full HP, all that kind of stuff. And so Bolt Tower, unless they engage on the turn that Bolt Tower activated, they're going to have some trouble breaking through your front line, being Sothis here. So back to Azura. Azura runs Fury. The reason why she runs Fury is to get her a good number of stats so that she can soak chills from the enemy team. So with Fury, she actually does soak chill speed. She has the highest speed of my team. She also soaks Dark Shrine, actually, once she has her 5 res bonus from Sothis, from the Mythic Blessing from Sothis. She actually soaks Chill Res, and she soaks Dark Shrine. So a lot of great things happening for her there. That means Sothis doesn't have to take Dark Shrine, makes Sothis a better frontliner overall. And because Azura is so far back and her main job is just to dance the team, that means that it doesn't matter that she's getting hit with all these debuffs. She doesn't care. She doesn't need to be a combat unit. She's a support unit. So when you build your team, you want to make sure that your support units, as much as possible, can soak those chills, can soak those offensive Dark Shrines, those offensive Bright Shrines, to make sure that your offensive units, to make sure your frontline units are always operating at their maximum capacity as much as possible. So her Wagasa gives her extra HP, which is great, and also extra speed, which is great, meaning that she's at the top of the Infantry Pulse chain, and she soaks chill speed. She obviously is a singer, so she is my refreshing unit. And she runs Moonbow because it's a low cooldown, and she's fast. So if she does end up getting into a combat, she will usually double an opponent. Not usually, but often double an opponent. And that means that her second attack will hit with Moonbow. Her attack stat is nothing to scoff at either, because she is Resplendent and has that Resplendent bonus of all of her stats. her stats across the board are actually not super terrible. She has low defense, which means that she will 100% of the time get isolated by Milla. So if you're looking to avoid Milla, you might want to think about a dancer that has high HP as well as high defense. Something like an Olivia, who's in the 3 and 4-star pool, who's a super great unit. She's pretty good at avoiding getting isolated if you're having problems with Milla like that. I prefer Azura personally because of her blue color, because she has high HP, and because she is just generally a good unit for her stats across the board. She's very balanced stat-wise, and she's good at soaking all of these kind of chills and shrines and all that kind of stuff. She does run chill res as well as chill speed, so she's chilling 3 stats between defense, res, and speed. I don't run any kind of chill attack on this team, because Sothis is usually good at surviving against opponents because of her high speed. So chill speed is actually more valuable to Azura to make sure that Sothis doesn't get doubled. And then my faster units like Soth can actually attempt to double or deny opponents' doubles as much as possible. So that is generally my Azura. I think she's really great because of her even stat distribution, which Fury super helps out with. That makes her a really good soaker of chills and all that kind of stuff. Next up, we have Sonya, and Sonya is an excellent unit because of her tome. So her tome has the Woe Dao effect of giving extra +10 damage when special triggers. So that's true damage. So even if your opponent has super high res, they're going to take a lot of damage between her Iceberg and the damage from Dark Excalibur. She also only needs 1 Infantry Pulse coming from Azura over here to make sure that she gets that Iceberg because of her Refine, which gives her -2 special cooldown at the start of a turn. At the start of turn 1, that is. So her Iceberg is pre-charged, it's all ready to go, and she is actually my Wings of Mercy unit. So she flies in and usually tries to snipe the back line. So she's not often going for tanks. So my tank killers are usually Bremond and Lysithia. Sonya is great at flying in and taking out a unit that was maybe the support unit behind the tank after the tank has died, or at taking out a unit that was just mispositioned, just poorly positioned, and not ready to receive, you know, a huge amount of damage from this +10 Woe Dao effect Iceberg. She does have really great res, which is awesome, but her res is lower than Azura's. That's important because that means she doesn't get hit by chill res. And so her Iceberg does more damage that way. So I made sure that Azura had enough res that she was avoiding the chill res effect. This is only operating at +1 merge on my Sonya and my Azura, so it's not like I'm going out and blowing all my orbs, getting these units to +10. They operate super well, even at +1, just making sure they get an advantageous boon. So my Azura having +HP, and my Sonya having +attack, that really is all you need. You just need to make sure you have an advantageous boon, and your units will perform very well for you in an Infantry Pulse comp, just because of the way special scaling works and the amount of true damage you can put out with these specials. So she does run Mirror Impact. That is twofold. One, it obviously boosts her damage incredibly high because her damage scales with res. So Iceberg is getting 5 extra damage from the 10 res that Mirror Impact provides. Also, Sonya is not super fast, so she's a great nuke. She has high attack, she does a great amount of damage, but she's pretty slow. She only has 31 speed. So Mirror Impact ensures that she is not going to get blown up by most units in retaliation. She can usually take 1 hit because she does have relatively high HP when all is said and done. She has 52 HP between the mythic boosts, and so she can usually survive a counterattack from a unit. So she does have Wings of Mercy, like I talked about, flies in and snipes stuff. I gave her the HP attack seal. That ensures that she gets above Lysithia to pulse Lysithia and all the units below her to order that Infantry Pulse chain correctly. So if you have units and you have really skewed your Infantry Pulse chain and you need an extra pulse here or there, I recommend the dual HP seals. The HP +5 seal can make it happen if you really need that extra 1 point of HP, but the dual HP, like the HP attack, HP speed, HP res, all those kind of seals are good to upgrade to make sure that your units actually pulse in the correct order downwards, and all of your units have their special charged on turn 1, so on their very first engagement, they can just annihilate an enemy without the chance of the enemy retaliating and taking out your units. So that's my Sonya. She does super, super well. If you watch my defense replays, she really does put in a lot of work taking out backline units. Finally, we have Bremond, who is probably the star of this team. He is just at +1 right now. I'm hoping to, at the end of this month, get him to get a better boon, because he has a plus speed boon right now. The other option I had was plus HP, and that's not really great. To make sure he's the bottom of the Infantry Pulse chain, I needed to make sure he only had the 41 HP. So he has plus speed right now. That's really not ideal. It really doesn't help him out in nearly any matchup. It can help him out against some null follow-up matchups, but not really. It's really unideal. I would recommend you get plus attack Bremond. Plus attack Bremond is great. It's really, really helpful for you. So Void Tome is incredible. It works really, really well because almost every unit you're going to encounter is going to have more than 50 attack, right? So you're going to get those extra attack points, and a lot of units will have the extra 35 or higher speed, so you'll get a free follow-up attack. That makes Bremond very, very powerful. It makes him surprisingly bulky with 40 res and 26 defense when all is said and done, when it actually bumps up to 36 defense because of Sturdy Impact. So he is a very, very powerful unit. He's very good at just annihilating enemies. Sturdy Impact denies the enemy follow-up, so speed doesn't even matter to him. He gets a follow-up, you don't get a follow-up, and so he just really blows up units most of the time. His Dragon Fang is incredible because he has, first of all, base 59 attack, which is great, plus the 6 extra damage from Sturdy Impact, and then I gave him the Death Blow Seal to give him even more damage, so he's getting plus 12 from his passive skills up here, and then his Tome is giving him the extra 5 attack from the enemy, which is really, really great. And so he's just getting all kinds of bonuses all over the place to make his damage output just crazy. Dragon Fang is a great special to run on him. I really, really recommend it for you. It's really, really great. Also, it should be noted that all of these bonuses that Bremond gets work even if the opponent's stats are not ideal, like if they have less than 50 attack or if they have less than 35 speed. It still works as long as there is a penalty on the unit you're attacking. So you have a really great Panic Shrine, or Panic Mana rather, you have your Dark Shrine, you have your Bright Shrine, and then I have my Triple Chill Azura. It's almost guaranteed that any unit that's trying to tank into Bremond is going to have some kind of penalty on them. So his effects are almost always active, nearly always active. He's very, very weak to null follow-up tanks. That makes him feel pretty bad. But he's still, just by one attack, just landing one attack with Dragon Fang on him, is still just an incredible amount of damage. It still tears through most any tank. So I did replace his attack defense push 4 with Sturdy Impact because of the follow-up denying effect that Sturdy Impact has. That really makes him really great to take out a whole bunch of units. Lull attack res, kept from his base kit, means that you're usually not gonna die from your opponent's retaliation attack. And then his C skill is incredible because it makes him a great counter to Brave Ike. And again, Brave Ike is one of the most common units you'll encounter. This ensures that anyone supporting with a Lancina, which is a Brave Lucina, or supporting with a male Corrin, for example, that usually are 2 steps away to ensure that they give their tank extra stats, that doesn't matter at all to Bremond. Bremond is 1v1 me bro, let's go, and Bremond will take people out. The only way to really get around Bremond is to defeat him in the player phase. He does have very low defense in the player phase. It's only 21 defense. Usually, unless he gets his bonus off of his Tome, but that's only 26 defense still. So he can get sniped down by airs occasionally, because air is, again, a light mythic, so you'll see here a ton. And he can get sniped out by some airs, so just be cautious of that. You want him to player phase opponents as much as possible, which is why he's towards the front line, so he can engage earlier than someone like, for example, Lysithia might be able to, or your Sonya might be able to after she flies in. So that is my team, generally. Just talking about the way I've set up this map now. So this is really great because of where the fortress is. Your fortress can't be destroyed. And this unbreakable wall over here ensure that your opponents have to go to the left side of the map to engage you. They have to do it. It also, where I've placed my traps, ensure that it's really, really hard to break the healing tower down. which is really great for you because keeping your units at high health is super awesome, especially Sothis with her Miracle, or if you're running Hell here instead of Sothis, keeping Hell's health high, keeping Sothis's health high, ensure they can use Miracle more, ensures they have even more survivability. So putting your healing tower over here is super great. It keeps all your units healthy. It has a super wide range also. So if your units end up in this column that Bremond and Sothis start in, they can still get healed, which is great because a lot of your units will often end up in this area around your traps to attack people that are tanking from the defensive tiles. So leveling up a Panic Manor to max is super important nowadays. More and more people are running triple mythics, meaning that they're running probably in light season an Air, a Peony, and a Milla, meaning that their tank is going to have 15 extra HP from their base, and if they're super well merged, they have summoner support, all that kind of stuff, their HP is going to be very, very high. And so Panic Manor going up to 70 HP or below means that a lot of units will still get panicked, even with all that kind of support. They'll still get panicked, which means that visible buffs are not great for them. It also means they have a penalty active for Bremond to exploit. Dark Shrine, Bright Shrine are over here in the corner. They're great, they do work a lot of the times, but Azura kind of doubles down on their effectiveness because of the way this map is designed. These will often get broken. That's the disadvantage of this map, although it forces your opponent into one pathway into your team. It does mean that almost all of your structures will be destroyed almost every game, which is fine because people that are maybe less informed or care less about your structures, they'll leave them there, but it does mean you should not run on a map like this anything like AR defense, speed res, or whatever that you can get from Mercedes. So that's why I run speed res form here instead of AR defense speed res, because these structures will get broken, and any kind of AR defense skill will not have a return on investment for you. This is just whatever the bonus structure of the week is. So right now it's Flyer School, so I've got my Flyer School down. And then I just put my Aether structures as far to the left as possible to try and get people to divert their units over there. That often causes people to misposition their units, which is really great for Sonya to then fly in and snipe them down. I used to have my structures, I've got my throne and then my 3 houses banners over here. I used to have them more center, but that means that people can break some of them selectively. And since only the attacking player can break these structures, it means that they can create a choke point. And that's not really good for you. That means that all of your units can't get through and collapse like you need them to. So for example, if I put this over here and kind of built around this way to try and slow my opponent down, if they broke just the blue lion's flag, that means that all my units would have to funnel straight down here between the black eagle's flag and the throne. And that means that your opponent could snipe down units one at a time, and that's really, really, really not good for you. So you want to keep this space open, nice free area for you to play in right here. Gives your units as much flexibility as possible. So that is the video. If you have any questions or need any advice about how to build your Infantry Pulse team, put it down in the comments. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We also do Aether Raids defense replays, so you can see these teams in action and get some inspiration for your own Aether Raids defense team. Until next time, guys, I will see you later.